citizen driven. All of us who have worked to bring this festival out are people from within your all friend circles. We are all citizens and volunteers who have brought this out. This has been an extremely satisfying festival. What the last 2 days have been. Fantastic, a great lineup of speakers, events, talks, discussions, and an amazing audience. It's great to do this HLF. Thank you. HLF rock! Come rain or sunshine, HLF goes on!
You've seen the short video. As Ajay, as you would know, was one of the pillars of HLF, and in a way, this year's edition is his legacy, taking his legacy forward. And he was one who was terribly, terribly interested in public discourse, public discussions. When he and Vikram set up Manthan, it was to try and understand India, where it was heading, what are the issues. Until the very last month almost, he was involved in Manthan and earlier in HLF as well. In fact, one of the last sessions I think he did at Manthan was after the Pegasus scandal broke, and he was deeply upset about where India was heading, what is happening to the constitutional order of things. So it's somewhat fitting that this session is titled India at 47. This was something that he would have been interested to know our discussions. He was very concerned about where India was going. And to have this discussion, we have a very eminent panel with us. Sorry, I must be careful so that your chair doesn't fall off. We have Dr. Reddy, who, as you said, doesn't need introduction, the former governor of the Reserve Bank of India, then the chairman of the 14th Finance Commission, and before that, of course, he was a part of the IS in the government of former Andhra Pradesh. We also have Dr. Shantha Sinha, who is retired as a professor of political science at the University of Hyderabad. More than that, she was very involved in freeing bonded labor, and then she was the first chairperson of the National Commission for Protection of Children for 2 terms. And then we have Sainath, again, who doesn't need introduction, who has been writing and working on poverty for more than 30 years. And he is the founder of the PARI, the People's Archive of Rural India. And of course, those of you who were here yesterday, you would have heard his very interesting discussion of his new book. We would now have a discussion of a presentation, in a sense, of 10 minutes of each speaker. Dr. Reddy will cover the slides which have been distributed, in which most of you have, on the economy at 2047. And Shantha, Sinha and Sainath will probably cover other aspects of how they see or where we should be at 2047. Thank you.
Hyderabad Literary Society వచ్చిన నా ప్రసంగానికి వచ్చిన వారు ఎందరో మహానుభావులు, అందరికీ వందనములు. నేను తెలుగులో మాట్లాడాలనుకున్నాను, కానీ ఈ సబ్జెక్ట్ పైన మనకంత కమాండ్ లేదు కాబట్టి తెలుగులో మాట్లాడలేను. కొంచెం మెలాయిస్తాను, తెలుగు ఇంగ్లీషు. మామూలుగా మన హైదరాబాద్ వాళ్ళకి తెలుగు ఉర్దూ కలుపుతారు. ఈ మాది గ్యాదరింగ్లో తెలుగు ఇంగ్లీష్ కలుపుతారు, తప్పేం లేదు. I could see that people are unhappy. I'll raise my voice. Okay. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. You see, నాకేమిటంటే ఇది ఒక విధమైన ఎక్స్పెరిమెంట్ ఆఫ్ ట్రైంగ్ టు కోప్ అప్ విత్ రియాలిటీ. నేను రిటైర్ అయ్యి 15 ఏళ్ళు అయిపోయింది, మోర్ దెన్ 15. అందుకని ఐ బిన్ ట్రైంగ్ హార్డ్ టు struggle. And in a way, this is a great opportunity for me, given by the organizers, to think about the issues. And that's what I have done for you. Secondly, I feel that what we require in the modern days is not so much the answers, but the way of putting questions and the way you look at the analytical tools. We require analytical tools to be able to understand. You may have people differ in their assumptions, people differ in their values, but they should have an analytical tool. So I thought what I should do is I only point out certain features and give you an analytical tool. And then if you agree, then you go through that method. So there's only one way of looking at things, not the only way of looking at things. Having said that, before I proceed further, I must pay my not only respect but highest regards and affection for Ajay Gandhi. I know him for two decades, almost 2 decades, and I had many occasions of interacting with him on many issues. A tremendously cheerful, charming. You never know, his strengths are concealed in his sweet charm. Very rare quality, people charm their way through without having strength. Here is a man who had so much strength, but he had to suppress it in the apparent charm. Something again, I will start with paying respect for the great man and conveying, I will pay respect for the great man and conveying my affection and regards to his family. Thank you very much. ఇప్పుడు మనం ఏం చేద్దామంటే నా అభిప్రాయంలో బెస్ట్ థింగ్ ఏమిటంటే, చెప్పాను కదా, ఇప్పుడు ఇండియా అట్ 100 అంటే ఎలాగా మనకేం తెలుస్తుంది అంటే, వాట్ ఇస్ ద బెస్ట్ మెథడ్ ఏంటంటే, నేను అనుకున్నాను, గో బ్యాక్ 1947 ఇండిపెండెన్స్ వచ్చింది కదా. ఇన్ఫ్యాక్ట్ ఐ కెన్ టెల్ యూ, ఇన్ఫ్యాక్ట్ మై డాటర్ ఈస్ డైరెక్టింగ్ ఫ్రమ్ దేర్. ఇట్టంటే ఎక్కించాలి, ఇట్టంటే తగ్గించాలి అన్నమాట. ఎనీవే, సో కీప్ ఇట్. ఇప్పుడు ఏమంటే బీ వెరీ ఫ్రాంక్, ఆల్సో ఐ కెన్ సీ మై హ్యాండ్ షేక్, నో ప్రాబ్లం. నేనేం చేశానంటే 2047లో ఎట్లుంటామని అంటారు, మోడీ గారు చెప్తున్నారు ఎక్కడుంటాం ఎట్లుంటామని, చాలా చెప్పారు ఎలా ఉండగలమని. ఐ వాజ్ రిమైండెడ్ ఆఫ్ 1947 ఇండిపెండెన్స్ డే రోజు నేను బళ్ళారిలో స్కూల్ నుంచి పోతా ఉంటే, ఐ ఓన్లీ రిమెంబర్ వన్ థింగ్, జెండా పట్టుకున్నాము, స్వీట్ ఇచ్చారు, everybody is happy. అంత ఏం జ్ఞాపకాలు లేవు. Over a period we studied what it was about. Basically what I say is, to know, understand what it is in any life, నా లైఫ్లో అనుకోండి, at the age of 20 what I thought I'll be at 30, at the age of 30 what I thought I'll be 40, say 40 I'll say what, all lucky people will think they have been progressing, maybe. So there's one way of analyzing the situation and drawing lessons. I am trying that now. 1947లో ఇండిపెండెన్స్ వచ్చిందండి. ఇప్పుడు ఎలా ఉండింది మన పరిస్థితి? ఆఫ్టర్ 25 years, హౌ ఈజ్ ఇట్? 72, మళ్ళీ 97 అయినాక ఎలా ఉంది? ఆ తర్వాత దెన్ ఆన్ దట్ బేసిస్ వీ కెన్ ప్రొజెక్ట్ 2002, దెన్ వీ కెన్ ప్రొజెక్ట్ ఎలా ఉంటుందని. దట్స్ హౌ ఐ ప్రిపేర్ ద ఫస్ట్ సెట్ ఆఫ్ టేబుల్స్. సో లెట్ గో త్రూ ద టేబుల్స్. ఐ విల్ ఓన్లీ సే, I'll give you a lot of time to read and react and leave it there. So tell me when you are able to read. And No, wait, if you can. Sorry. India at 100. ఆథర్స్ ఎవరంటే ఇద్దరండి, వైవి రెడ్డి, షాజీ విక్రమన్. నేను మాట్లాడేవాడిని, ఆయన ఆలోచించి రాసేవాడండి. అందుకని జాగ్రత్తగా వినండి లేదా చదవండి. ఆప్షన్ కూడా ఇచ్చాం మీకు. 1922 నుంచి 47 వారు ఎక్కువ చెప్పాల్సిన పని లేదు. బ్రిటిష్ ఇండియా, అప్పుడు బ్రిటిష్ ఇండియా, ఇప్పుడు ఇండియా ఒకటే కాదు కదండి, మీకు తెలుసు. అలాగే తర్వాత వాట్స్ గ్లోబల్ సినేరియో. గ్లోబల్ సినేరియో యూనో, డొమెస్టిక్ సినేరియో ఇండియానే లేదు అప్పుడు. గ్లోబల్ సినేరియో అంతా కొట్టాడుకుంటున్నారు. తర్వాత ఎకనామిక్ సిచ్యువేషను, బిఫోర్ ఇండిపెండెన్స్ 25 yearsలో పర్ క్యాపిటల్ ఇన్కమ్ వాజ్ నెగటివ్, గ్రోత్ రేట్ వాజ్ జస్ట్ 1.06%. అది బిఫోర్ ఇండిపెండెన్స్. యూ హావ్ టు రిమెంబర్ దాట్. దట్స్ వేర్ వి స్టార్టెడ్ ది ఇండిపెండెన్స్. తర్వాత ఛాలెంజెస్ ఏమిటి? ఇంత పరిస్థితి పూర్ బ్యాక్వర్డ్ నేషన్ అనేది ఎట్లా ఇంప్రూవ్ చేయాలనేది. లెట్స్ థింక్ ఆఫ్ 1947లో పార్టీషన్. ఈ చెప్పిన దాంట్లో కొన్నేమో ఫ్యాక్ట్స్ ఉన్నాయి, కొన్నేమో మై అసెస్మెంట్ ఉంది. ఇట్ మే బి రాంగ్, ఇట్ మే బి రైట్, బట్ ప్లీజ్ మేక్ యువర్ ఓన్ అసెస్మెంట్. అసలు స్పేస్ ఇచ్చాను సో దట్ యూ కెన్ రైట్ డౌన్ యువర్ డిసగ్రిమెంట్స్ ఇఫ్ యూ లైక్. పార్టీషన్ వచ్చింది, మైగ్రేషన్ వచ్చింది. ఇన్ఫాక్ట్ యూ మే నాట్ నో, 1947 ఇండిపెండెన్స్ వచ్చినప్పుడు ప్రిన్సిపల్ స్టేట్స్ ఏమవుతాయని తెలియదు. సో యాజ్ ఆఫ్ 1947 ఇండియా డింట్ ఎగ్జిస్ట్ ఇన్ వే థింక్ ఆఫ్ నౌ. ఇంటగ్రేట్ చేశారు. దెన్ యూ గాట్ కమ్యూనల్ డిస్టర్బెన్సెస్. యూ హ్యావ్ టు జస్ట్ ఇమాజిన్ ద టైప్ ఆఫ్ ప్రాబ్లమ్స్ ది అడ్మినిస్ట్రేషన్ హెస్ టు ఫేస్, ద పొలిటికల్ లీడర్షిప్ హెస్ టు ఫేస్. ఈ రోజు అటువంటి జరిగితే విల్ నాట్ బి ఏబుల్ టు హ్యాండిల్ ఇట్ ఆల్సో. తర్వాత నెక్స్ట్ యూ గో టు గ్లోబల్ సినారియో. గ్లోబల్ కూడా అలానే ఉండింది. Global, there are not many countries which are independent by that time. And many of them which became independent later are far more prosperous than now. Please remember that. If you see the list of nations, what is their position in 1947, ఇప్పుడు ఎలా ఉంది మన పరిస్థితి చూసుకుంటే ఏమేమి తప్పులు చేశామని కనుక్కోవాలి. నేను చేసినప్పుడు ఇంక 20 ఏళ్లకు ఈ బ్యాక్గ్రౌండ్లో ఎంతవరకు మన ప్రోగ్రెస్ ఉంటుంది కనుక్కోవాలి. అలాగే దెన్ యూ గో టు ఎకనామిక్ సిచ్యువేషన్ అంటారు. మీరు జీడిపి నెంబర్స్ ఇచ్చాము, పర్ క్యాపిటల్, లైఫ్ ఎక్స్పెక్టెన్సీ, డామినెంట్ షేర్. జనరల్ స్టేట్ ఈస్ వెరీ వెరీ బ్యాడ్ ఇన్ ది సెన్స్, నాట్ దట్ అవర్ ఓన్ మేకింగ్, బట్ సంబడి ఎల్స్ మేడ్ ఇట్, బట్ దట్స్ ద ప్రాబ్లం. దెన్ వాట్ ఇస్ ఛాలెంజెస్. మోస్ట్ ఇంపార్టెంట్ ఛాలెంజ్ ఏంటంటే ఇండిపెండెన్స్ వచ్చింది. వాట్ టైప్ ఆఫ్ మోడల్, ఏ మోడల్, వాట్స్ ఐడియల్ మోడల్ ఫర్ ఇండియా? ఆ టైంలో 2 కంపీటింగ్ మోడల్స్ ఉన్నాయి, రష్యా అండ్ వెస్ట్. ఐడియాలజికల్ డివైడ్ అంటూ కూడా ఉండింది. So people have to see what's the best way for the country to go forward. In that struggle, there was initially a huge struggle between the left and the right. In that struggle between the left and the left won. Nehru won. But again, in the left doesn't necessarily mean same thing in different ways and for different people. So left అంటే ఏమైందంటే, లెఫ్ట్ అంటే ఏమిటంటే ప్రజలు వాళ్ళు ఏమనుకున్నారు, ముందు ఇండస్ట్రీ పెడదాం, తర్వాత ప్రజలు చూసుకున్నాం అనుకో. అది తప్పు అని అయిపోయింది ఇన్ రెట్రాస్పెక్ట్. ఇన్ రెట్రాస్పెక్ట్ ఇస్ ఎ ప్రాబ్లం. Because we emphasized too much of industry and too little of educational wealth. Obviously, అది తప్పైంది ఒక విధంగా ఆలోచిస్తే. అలాగే యూ గో బ్యాక్ టు ఎక్స్పెక్టేషన్. అప్పుడు ఏమనుకున్నారు, సర్ప్రైజ్ చదవండి, ఎంత హై ఎక్స్పెక్టేషన్స్ అంటే అన్ఎంప్లాయ్మెంట్ ఎలిమినేట్ చేస్తాం, బిల్డ్ చేస్తాం, వచ్చేసి చాలా అంబిషియస్గా చేసాం. బట్ మోస్ట్ ఇంపార్టెంట్, మీరు యూ హ్యావ్ టు అబ్జర్వ్ దట్ అట్ దట్ పాయింట్ ఆఫ్ టైమ్ వీఆర్ ఫిజికలీ వెరీ ప్రూడెంట్. But huge sterling balances మన దగ్గర ఆ డేస్లో, హ్యూజ్ స్టెర్లింగ్ బ్యాలెన్సెస్, వెరీ లిటిల్ ఫిజికల్ డెఫిసిట్, వెరీ ప్రూడెంట్ మేనేజ్మెంట్. ఆ తర్వాత ఏమైంది అనేది మీరు మరి ఆలోచిస్తే ఇట్స్ నెక్స్ట్ పిక్చర్ యూ విల్ నో ఓన్లీ అట్ 1972. So you would see that, please go through it carefully, each item, then you'll get a hang of the picture of the items that you feel are important. Then you go to 1972. Yes. 1972. By then I joined the Indian Administrative Service. I made my contribution to the poverty of India and the riches of India. So 1972లో మనము మిసెస్ ఇందిరాగాంధీ వచ్చేసి అప్పటికి ఆయన వెళ్ళిపోయారు. ఇన్ బిట్వీన్ ఒక హీరో ఉన్నాడు, ఆయన పేరు లాల్ బహదూర్ శాస్త్రి. Perhaps he is the only man who had the most pragmatic approach to India and really committed to India with no ideological hang-ups. And another thing ఏంటంటే Bangladesh, of course, Bangladesh 1974 war అయింది. సో ఆ విక్టరీ ఉందన్నమాట మన గొప్పవాళ్ళని అనుకుంటుంటాం. తర్వాత బట్ మోస్ట్ ఇంపార్టెంట్ ఏంటంటే 1970s మనం అబ్జర్వ్ చేసింది 72లో బిగినింగ్ ఆఫ్ ద అడ్మిషన్ ఆఫ్ చైనా అండ్ రష్యా టు ఐఎంఎఫ్. అంటే early 70s నుంచి రష్యా చైనా ద పిల్లర్స్ ఆఫ్ socialism wanted to join IMF and World Bank. So that means they were already discarding socialism. అప్పుడు మనం ఎక్స్పెన్షన్ చేసాం సోషలిజం, నేషనలైజ్ చేసాం ఎక్కువగా. సో ఇది ఇంట్రెస్టింగ్ కాంట్రాస్ట్. గ్లోబల్ సినారియో నుంచి డిపార్ట్ అయిపోయాం. సో వీ డి నాట్ రియలైజ్ అవర్ మిస్టేక్స్ ఇన్ టైమ్. ఐ థింక్ దట్ ఇస్ అనదర్ ఇంపార్టెంట్ ఐడియాలజికల్ షిఫ్ట్. తర్వాత అప్పటికి ఏమనుకుంటే వీ వాంట్ టు ప్రొటెక్ట్, బట్ whereas other countries, particularly developing countries, again 70s నుంచి developing countries ఏం చేశారు? The only way to get out of the poverty is to produce more competitively and have trade integration. So China could understand that, and that's where again fundamental changes in the approach. అప్పుడు ఏం చేశారు 70s 80sలో ఈ బ్యాక్వర్డ్ నుంచి బయట రావడానికి ప్రొటెక్షన్ నుంచి ఎదుర్కొన్నారు. కానీ యాజ్ ఇట్ హ్యాపెన్, ఇట్ didn't happen that way. Actually, those countries which had competitive exchange rate and who could sort of compete effectively through employment intensive. Employment intensive need not be the end. Employment intensive is beginning, so that Japanese, in olden days, Japanese goods are third rate quality. Mundu third rate quality, then you can improve. You have to do something before you can improve kada. Quality ante adantha chesaru anamata. So that was that I would say 1970s. Again, you had challenges. You have got low capacity utilization. Most importantly, whenever devaluation took place, we always felt that we should not do the follow-up measure. IMF కొట్టాడు, వాడు కొట్టాడు, వీడు కొట్టాడు, ఫోర్స్ చేశారని we blamed. But the point is, we are also members of IMF. We would have contributed the policy, and we did not adopt the policy to which we contributed in IMF, and that policy was కాంపిటీషన్. అంటే శక్తి లేదే ఏం చేయలేరు. మనం శక్తిని పూజ చేస్తాం కానీ సెల్ఫ్ శక్తిని చేసుకోలేము. దట్స్ అవర్ వీక్నెస్. పూజ చేసేస్తాం. గాంధీజీ అంటే మాలేయడమే అని చెప్పి నేను అవసరం లేదు. అలా అయిపోయింది మన కల్చర్ అనమాట అని నా అభిప్రాయం. ప్లీజ్ ఫిల్ ఇన్ ద వాట్ ఆర్ ది డీటెయిల్. యూ కెన్ క్యాన్సల్ ఎనీథింగ్ విచ్ యూ థింక్ ఇస్ అన్ఇంపార్టెంట్ అండ్ యాడ్ ఇన్ యువర్ పెన్ అండ్ పెన్సిల్ as a couple. That's why I'm doing this analytical too. Then you have the challenges. So again, we go through 72. I think we have said N about 72. 97. Here comes almost pretty much. By then, the era of strong leadership is gone. Era of strong leadership of, except for 2-3 years, Lal Bahadur Shastri. Basically strong leaders, two strong leaders accounted for most of the period. Era of strong leadership has gone, era of change has started, if I may put it that way. Okay? When the era of strong leadership changed, there is churning of thoughts. ఆ churning of thoughts లో coalition వచ్చేసింది 90s, 91 నుంచి. coalition వచ్చేటప్పటికి క్రాస్ ఫెర్టిలైజేషన్ అన్ని అందరూ కొట్లాడుకున్నారు. కానీ కొట్లాడుకున్నందువల్ల ఒక విధమైన కన్సెన్సస్ డెవలప్ అయింది, strength development, participative democracy, really. Not decentralization by itself, it doesn't matter what level. At one situation, in my view, for the country as a whole, we developed a spirit of cooperating and then working together. Again, I must say that the bipolar two-party democracy అనేది mostly other developing countries, democracies లో only two countries, USA and UK maximum. Most other countries always have had Japan కానీ యూరోప్ కానీ కోalition గవర్నమెంట్స్ ఉండేది. అటువంటి కోalition గవర్నమెంట్స్ both under Bajpayee and Peanuts, they produced excellent growth results. You will find growth results ఉన్నాయి. కంట్రీ స్ట్రెంథెన్ అయింది. తర్వాత యూ కెన్ సీ వాట్ ఐ డూ ఇస్ డొమెస్టిక్ చూడండి, గ్లోబల్ చూడండి. ఆ గ్లోబల్ ఎన్విరాన్మెంట్లో ఎలాగా 5 minutes అయిపోయింది కదా. Quickly, I won't take more time. Quickly, I run through. Since it's all available for you, I must leave it at that. and not go too much. And 1997, yeah. I can say one thing as part of the confusion in 1997. Therefore, I'm a bit more aware of it. Then I come to the 2003, 2023లో నేను ఎక్కువ రాయలేదండి. ఎందుకు ఎక్కువ రాయాలంటే మీకు తెలుసుగా బాగా, పాతది నాకు తెలియదుగా. సో యాజ్ అడ్వాన్స్ పాతదేమో ఎక్కువ రాశాను. యాజ్ గో టువర్డ్స్ 97, 22 టూ థింగ్స్. నాలెడ్జ్లో మీకు బెటర్గా ఉండొచ్చు నాకంటే, అట్లీస్ట్ ఐ డోంట్ మచ్ బెటర్. తర్వాత జడ్జిమెంట్లో కానీ పరిస్థితులు ఇచ్చారు. కరెంట్ సిచ్యుయేషన్ కంటే కూడా పాస్ట్ ముఖ్యం కదా. బట్ ఎనీవే బిట్వీన్ 2003 and now 2002, between 2022, 1997 2022, ఆ పీరియడ్ వెరీ క్రిటికల్ పీరియడ్ ఫర్ వెరైటీ ఆఫ్ రీజన్స్. మీరు చూస్తారు, మీరు చదివితే. సో ఐ లీవ్ ద థాట్ విత్ యూ టు థింక్ త్రూ and then tell me. But having said that, people say in the long, they are in the long run all of us are dead. But that maybe would sell. Long run is a series of short runs. Medium term ఎలా ఉంటుంది? మీడియం టర్మ్ వచ్చేటప్పటికి గ్యాస్ అవసరం లే, నంబర్స్ రావాలి. ఇంతవరకు 25 ఏళ్ళంటే గ్యాస్ ఐడియల్స్, ఐడియాలజీ ఏం లేదు. ఇప్పుడు గ్యాస్ ట్యాక్స్ 5 years మీడియం టర్మ్, చెప్పండి ఏం చేస్తాం. ఆ సిచ్యుయేషన్ తీసుకొని నేను అన్నాను, ఎవరంటే దో వీ మే నాట్ రెస్పెక్ట్ ఇంటర్నేషనల్ మానిటరీ ఫండ్ ఈజ్ రీజనబుల్లీ గుడ్ ఇండికేటర్. సో I requested a friend, Mr. RBF, I requested Subaya, my friend, to help me with the statistics. This descriptive analysis was done, as I mentioned, by a very good friend of mine, along with you. Now, in my forecast assumptions, ఇది నంబర్స్ అండి. దయచేసి నంబర్స్ కేర్ఫుల్గా చూడండి. ఫస్ట్ చూస్తారు కదా వాళ్ళు, మీ దగ్గర ఉన్నాయి కదండి. జస్ట్ బేసికలీ ఐ థింక్ వీఆర్ టోల్డ్ షుడ్ రీచ్ 5 trillion ఎకానమీ కదా. 5 trillion ఎకానమీ బై 2027 అండి. నేను మరి IMF ఏం చేశారు, టిపికల్ అనలైజ్ చేశారు. ఎలా వెళ్తాడు ఇండియా ఇక్కడ ఉంది, ఇండియా ఇక్కడ ఉంది. హౌ టు రీచ్ 2.57? 5 ఏళ్ళు చేయగలం. వెరీ గుడ్, వీ కెన్ డూ 5. 5 ఏళ్లలో చేయగలిగితే ఎలా చేయాలంటే 3 factors. అరిథమెటిక్, ఫస్ట్ స్టేజ్ అరిథమెటిక్ ఏమిటంటే 3 factors డిటర్మిన్ అవుతాయి. 5.27 trillion అంటే ఏం కావాలంటే జీడిపి ఎంత గ్రో కావాలి, ఇన్ఫ్లేషన్ ఎంత ఉండాలి, ఎక్స్చేంజ్ రేట్ ఎంత ఉండాలి, అంతే. అరిథమెటిక్ ఈజ్ 3. యూ కెన్ హ్యావ్ ఎనీ అమౌంట్ ఆఫ్ పర్ముటేషన్స్, కాంబినేషన్. అది రాశారు. సో if you see in newspapers, India to be 5 trillion by 2027, this is what they are saying. మీరు చూడండి, ఇది చూస్తే అనదర్ క్వశ్చన్, ఆ కాలంలో చేయగలిగామా? ఇది ఇంత ఎక్స్చేంజ్ రేట్ మెయింటైన్ చేయగలిగామా? ఇది డిప్రిసియేషన్ అస్యూమ్డ్ రియలిస్టిక్? ఈజ్ ది ఇన్ఫ్లేషన్ అస్యూమ్డ్ రియలిస్టిక్? ఈజ్ ది గ్రోత్ అస్యూమ్డ్ రియలిస్టిక్? క్వశ్చన్స్. దానికోసం నేను ఏం చేశాను, గో బ్యాక్ అండ్ సీ అవర్ హిస్టరీ. అఫ్ కోర్స్ మేము రెవల్యూషనరీ డిఫరెంట్ ఉండొచ్చు, but past history doesn't show that in any case. So let's see, go back. Then I request you to go back to the average exchange rate. First growth, average GDP growth. Average GDP growth ఎంత ఉంటే దానికి కూడా ఒక 5 ఏళ్ళు అంటే somebody may object, no, why 5 years, why 10 years? Average, past average. So have to be careful. అందుకని I read out here. India's average GDP growth is nearly 5.1% since 1961. ఇప్పుడు ఏమైనా అస్యూమ్ చేస్తున్నారు చూడండి, ఇప్పుడు అసంప్షన్ చూడండి, ఇక్కడ అన్ని 5/6. సెకండ్ ఫైనాన్షియల్ సెక్టర్ 1991 తర్వాత యావరేజ్ 6.1. దిస్ క్లోజర్ ఆఫ్టర్ ఫైనాన్షియల్ సెక్టర్ రిఫార్మ్స్ వీఆర్ క్లోజర్ టు 6.1. 2027 average 7.1%. Far higher than all issue. Why 2002, 707? తర్వాత చెప్తాను. Secret. Since 2014, the average growth is 7.6%, excluding the pandemic years of 2021. అది ఇంక్లూడ్ చేసి ఇంకా తక్కువ అవుతుంది అనుకోండి. The average growth is in 24, including pandemic years, 5.3. So 5.3 ఉండొచ్చు. You can't exclude it roughly in that range. So it's not bad. Now let's go back to the inflation. Average inflation ఏమిటంటే 1961 నుంచి తీసుకుంటే 7.5%. Financial sector reform tarvata, inflation is slightly moderated to 7.1%. Slightly moderated. Third, 2007, 4.7%. Since 2000, the average inflation is lower at 4.9%. Annual average exchange rate 4.86% roughly. Usually, exchange rate competitiveness maintained. Depreciation should broadly follow the inflation trend. Depreciation 4.86%. Average in the financial sector reform 3.35%. Average inflation assumed, average appreciation assumed 2.09, 202. And appreciation, 2020 appreciation, not depreciation. Mita, sorry, very 2.9 depreciation. More depreciation of depreciation. Appreciation of a period 2002-07. Then India's economy 2007. India is one of the fastest growing economies in the world. You will see from the table. India will have the largest population 2027. India's per capita income is estimated to be so and so by 2027. The top 10% Indian population holds 77%. Total national wealth. According to the Human Development Report, India is 132nd. Third in terms of GDP and 132nd in terms of human development. Outlook for 2047, question. And therefore, my submission is, from this you can derive the lessons of history. Arithmetically, substantially, political leadership-wise, socially. I'll only remind you again one thing. When we started out, we assumed that there will be land reforms. It didn't happen. We assumed that it didn't happen. We did not have sufficient. Of course, we produce a lot of intellectual people. It's like producing skills. It's good. Skills for a higher level, but not the lower level. So now I'll end this without any further ado, except one. What was special about 2002 to 2005? Can anybody guess? Why 2002 to 2007 was exceptional? Exchange rate appreciated. Inflation was low. Growth was high. Why? Anybody? Yes? Pardon?
Information.
Yes, very good. Nance point, sir. I'll end it, yeah? Please think it over. It's a quiz. If you are impatient, I give you the answer.
We are impatient.
Huh?
We are impatient.
You want me to tell you? Why we reduce Governor Reserve Bank of India? There's an accident though. That's what the statistics show.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Reddy, with ending in that manner. A lot of food for thought with the tables, which I think we will think about. I now request Dr. Shantha Sinha. Perhaps she could, I leave that to her, but perhaps she could talk about the social sector, where she sees the social sector today and where she hopes we will move and the possibility of that by 2047.
Thank you very much. I think it's an honor to be sharing the panel with Reddy Garu and Sainath, and also to be asked to talk on in memory of Ajay Gandhi, whom all of us love, cherish, and the values that he stood for is so inspiring. And creating a debate for intellectual activity and debate is so essential. He did it through Manthan, he did it to Hyderabad Literary Fest. I think it is so important to have such conversations. And this is also an aspect of civil society and civil society's contribution to enhancing and enriching the state as well as the civil society. I thought I will just, as Reddy Garu has said, one will have to go or peep into the past to understand the present. I was reading Sainath's book, some chapters of the last heroes, and it gave me, in fact, a kind of inspiration on how the civil society was built during the nationalist movement. You know, there were millions of mutinies, millions of heroes who had the moral fiber to stand for truth, to stand for honesty, and all of them were created as part of an anti-imperialist movement, and they were part of resistance. So in a sense, civil society was an aspect of resistance in India. You know, it's so important to flag the point that when during the 200 years of nationalist movement, it was a movement of fruition of discussion, debate, questioning, in fact, creation of a civil society that enhanced the values of democracy, liberty, equality, justice, as he said, land reforms. All these factors came into being during the nationalist movement, and there were several millions who participated in this. And it is these millions who created civil society. And when we talk about civil society, it is about citizenship, citizens who are in the process of becoming citizens through the anti-imperialist movement, and through that internalizing the values of democracy and the values of secularism, freedom, what we are actually facing as a challenge today. So I would think that when you talk about civil society in India, it is a political society in India, which was an aspect of resistance movement in India. And that tradition continues, I would think, even later, when many of us who belong to perhaps 2-3 generations after, who still thought of the work of civil society as a work of politics and as a work of resistance. But then there were very many types of resistance that we have had. Those who had engaged with the state, those who were subversive, who thought who would enter into the spaces of the state and then turn it upside down from within the state. Many criticized it as saying that you are being co-opted, but many who were conscious, they felt that they could get into the institutions and bring change from within. I suppose many of the IAS officers who joined the administrative services subsequently thought that they can radicalize administrative services, and that is how bring about change. So I would think that, just to tell you, civil society would, first point, it is political society, is an act of resistance, taking up innumerable issues, and civil society deepening democracy, being inclusive, getting as many into the fold as possible to be participating in politics in many aspects of life, and civil society as being talking about rights. Yeah, civil society is about citizens who hold rights and who put pressure on the state to see that rights are delivered. It's not for the civil society to protect rights. It is for the state to protect rights. And that is where I think the civil society had a huge role to play to see that citizens' rights are protected. I will not take much of your time, but I thought just 1 or 2 lines on how one would envisage. I mean, this is a very challenging task. How would one envisage a civil society activity in 2047? A wrong question always gets wrong answers. So I will have wrong answers for the wrong question asked. But otherwise, when I thought about it, immediately what struck me was the system of surveillance through technology and how it intimidates the poor, how it intimidates the marginalized, and how at every second we have to grapple with that kind of data that is inevitably anti-poor, inevitably anti-access to rights. We have seen how Aadhaar cards are working. We have seen how e-Seva is working. It is very comfortable, perhaps, as authority for the system to have all the data centralized, but for those who actually need services like PDS, like NREGA, like even a transfer certificate from one school to the other, if they did not have their names in the data that was compiled by the government, they are not citizens. It seems one site of contestation is the surveillance system, is the technology where you have to prove you're a citizen, you have to prove you're alive, you have to prove that you're a human being and that my name is Shantha because my name has not been entered into that damn computer system. I think civil society will have a huge role to play to fight data terrorism that is affecting every poor today. I mean, these are the new issues I'm sure that will come up. I'm just giving this to you as an example. Perhaps in 2047, education and health may not be site for contestation of resources. Perhaps every political party would imagine a country where everybody should be educated, where there would be health services. But that is not enough. You need literacy, you need education, without which there is no citizenship and citizenship rights. The last thing, I have many things to say, but I don't want to take up your time. It's already late. But my worry is about imagining India. What kind of imagination do we have of India? Is it a non-secular, a communal, authoritarian regime, which I don't say is a possibility, but it is becoming an actuality? Is it that? Or is it what we had cherished as democratic values through the Constitution? And the role of society, civil society in actually seeing that concretely these things happen is huge. We have a huge responsibility. Somewhere we took constitutional values for granted. We thought we didn't have to work on it because there is a constitution. But now we feel that it has to be permeated, deepened, and become a part of celebration of democracy, where every citizen owns up the constitution. They are just not hoisting a flag. They're hoisting a flag, imagining India as a democratic, secular, socialist country. And I think it is so important that civil society plays a huge role in combating the current disposition to bring back the rich values, and that I think would require a huge moral renaissance in the country, and civil society has a role to play to bring out this moral renaissance. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Shantha Sinha, for talking to us about your vision of, the role, talking to us about the role civil society has played in the past and what you hope will play in the future, and also reminding us about what kind of society that we would want 25 years from now. I now like Sainath to elaborate on the same theme.
Well, thank you. We have heard two very fine presentations, and I think the tables very clearly laid out by Dr. Reddy show us that what happens in 2047 is not a given. Different things happen according to different policy phases of our society. I'm going to simply say that how India will do at 100, how India will do in 2047 depends a lot on what you and I do in 2023. Okay? What we do now, and I think even more importantly in 2024, that is going to determine which way we go. So what are we doing in 2023? It requires honesty to look at ourselves, who we are as a society in 2023, what kind of trajectory have we embarked on. Personally, my personal thing is that it goes back long before 2014. The problem, one thing we have to understand, everything unfolds in a context. In my view, India is ruled by a coalition of forces, which process was well underway even before Mr. Modi and 2014, but intensifies incredibly after that year. I think India is ruled by a coalition of socio-religious fundamentalists and economic market fundamentalists. I think this is the coalition that runs this country. Yeah. Now, honesty about who we are as a society and what do you want in 2047. I think that you do have a very clear vision laid out for you in the Constitution of India. Not just in the fundamental rights, but in the directive principles of state policy. I think there are just a few principles in that. We don't have to follow every one of them. Half a dozen of them, the right to work as a fundamental, if you were to make these fundamental and justiciable, every time you talk about the directive principles of state policy, some smart young lawyer will stand up and tell you, but sir, they are not justiciable. The same paragraph that says that also tells you they are fundamental to the governance of the country. There are only 2 constitutions in the world that I am aware of that have such a chapter. The other being the Irish Revolutionary Constitution of 1921, from whom we drew it. And let's not be ashamed to acknowledge that. Now, where are we on these principles that you look at in the preamble, in the directive principles? Justice, social, economic, political. I do not think that the constitution makers, I think they were very conscious in putting just social before economic and political. I think they were very considered in that action. Still, the greater part of the intelligentsia of this country refuses to engage with social justice, with caste. Progressives refuse to do it. Right? So, how we are going to engage with social justice is going to be a very important factor in how we do and what we do. Second, economic. It's just incredible. In 1991, when we embraced the brave new world of neoliberalism, there was not a single dollar billionaire in this country. Or maybe they were too modest to declare themselves that way. Sorry. My source for the numbers I'm giving you is the incredible journal called Forbes, the oracle of global capitalism. In year 2000, we had $8 billionaires. In year 2012, the year we launched out on our socio-economic caste census, we had 53. Please compare the figures with the figures that the socio-economic caste census. For instance, 75% of rural households, of which there are 180 crore, the main breadwinner took home less than 5,000 a month. If we raise the benchmark to 10,000, 90% of rural households, the main breadwinner was taking home less than 10,000. 10,000 or less, to be more accurate. Yeah. But we had $53 billionaires. And each year we added 5, 10, 15. Comes the pandemic. We add more billionaires in the first 12 months of the pandemic than we did in the preceding 8 years. We added $42 billionaires. And it's so clear where the billionaires come from. The biggest gainers were big pharma and what people are pleased to call healthcare. I resent the word. There is no element of care in it. Call it health cash. Yeah. But today, of India's 160 billionaires, the largest group, 32, are from the health sector. 31 are from manufacturing. 16 are from IT, which is a very large group, which is a very large number for such a small populated sector. And we added 42 in the first year of the pandemic, 26 in the second year of the pandemic. It means in those 24 months, you added more than in the preceding, I don't know how many years. Right. Also, the cumulative wealth of your billionaires as of 2021 March was about 24, equivalent to 22 to 24% of your gross domestic product, invoking that whole other meaning of the word gross. Right. And incidentally, we now have $160 billionaires. The top five account for 30% of the wealth of these 160. And of course, it's a total coincidence. I mean, couldn't be anything else, that the top five are all Gujaratis. Hardworking guys, we know that, right? So they're all Gujaratis. Ambani, Adani, Palonji, Sangvi, Premji, yeah. They're hardworking guys. I mean, yeah. But now, the top two, Mr. Adani, before his spectacular decline in the last 48 hours, became the third richest man in the world. Now, all this time, please look at what's happening to the bottom 50%. The bottom 30%, if you go by Credit Suisse, the multinational bank, their global wealth data book, the bottom 30% wealth has turned negative. They're in debt. The bottom 50% is about 5 or 6%, accounts for 5-6% of total wealth, as against 65% or 70% of the top 10. Now, if this is the path we choose, this is the path we go along, it's very easy to tell you where you will be by 2047. It even calls into question whether you will be there in 2047. Okay? So you have to think about that economic justice. You know, when the farmers were protesting at the gates of Delhi, at Singhu and Tikri, when they were protesting, there was not, it'll interest you, we looked for one editorial in major publications or on the websites of major channels supporting the farmers. There wasn't one. Now, the media are totally controlled by corporations. They are corporations, largely. The dominant sections of the media are corporations. There were papers which practiced a lot of crocodile tears and bleeding heart sympathy. It's the government's fault for not talking sweetly to the farmers, nicely. You know, they're all, after all, they're all country hicks. You talk to them sweetly, meeti baat karo, they'll go back happy. But the last line, typically the Indian Express editorial, however, the laws should not be withdrawn. However, they should not be withdrawn because these are very good for the country. Now, here's two things. The two biggest beneficiaries of that law, and those laws were not drafted in any parliamentary committee, they were drafted in the boardrooms of corporations. And the laws, by the way, didn't just affect farmers, they affected every one of you very badly. Please read them. And when you did this, the two biggest beneficiaries were Mr. Ambani and Mr. Adani, one of whom had already built 400 silos for, coal preservation in Himachal Pradesh. Now, not a word was spoken about this, even though it was a fact and remains a fact that Mr. Ambani's personal wealth is greater than the GSDP of Punjab, and Mr. Adani's personal wealth was greater than the GSDP of Haryana, which is even bigger. I don't know what has happened in the last 48 hours to that number, but this is where you were. The media cannot tell you anything because this wasn't fear only. Okay. The Mr. Ambani was and remains the largest media owner in this country. Those sections of the media he does not own, he is probably the largest private advertiser. So you don't muck around with that. Yeah. Now Mr. Adani has purchased one decent channel you had, NDTV. Yeah. So you look at which way you're going, you have a very fair idea of what kind of society and nation you're going to be there. Then there's the political justice. And lastly, look, is there hope? I believe there is. I'm differentiating this from fake optimism and cynical pessimism. You know, fake optimism is, I don't know how many people have, finance ministers and prime ministers have told us that since 91. If economy grows at 10%, poverty will be history in 60 months. Yeah. Those who made that pronouncement, they're not even in history. But this was a very common cliche. Yeah. Now, in the thing, if you look, that's one kind of fake optimism. You know, the ultimate optimist, the guy who fell from the 50th floor of a building. Each floor he passed on the way down, he said, so far so good. He wasn't available for comment post-landing. But the cynical pessimist achieves exactly the same result of the fake optimist. Kuch sudhrega nahi. Why should I do anything? If economy is growing at 10% and poverty will be history in 5 years, why should I do anything? And both of them absolve ourselves of personal responsibility. But between fake optimism and cynical pessimism, there is a territory called hope. I live there. Yeah. And I'm saying, I think that what we need to be doing in 2023 is operating on the framework through the prism of justice. What does your constitution say? Justice, social, economic, political. It then says liberty, equality, fraternity. How we are, you know what I want to tell you? It's already happening. What were those young teenagers reading out from in the anti-CAA resistance? They were reading from the preamble of the Constitution, which to my mind, with all its many flaws, and there are many, still represents the finest essence of the idealism of the freedom struggle. Okay? They were reading justice, social, economic, political. Isn't it interesting that many of them were arrested and jailed for shouting slogans of Azadi, and now the government presides over Azadi Ka Amrut Mahotsav. Then the farmers' struggle, the greatest peaceful democratic protest organized at the height of the pandemic and probably in the last 20 years. Prior to that was Occupy Wall Street, a fight for justice. We are the 99%. It lasted 9 weeks and they were kicked out of Zuccotti Park. The farmers held out there for 1 year and 1 month. They showed us what resistance means. They didn't win. They did not solve the agrarian crisis. I'm not even dreaming of that action doing it. But they did this. And it shows you that that spirit of resistance is there. Yeah. How do we fight for justice in each of these spheres? You're getting examples all around you. You know, Victor Hugo said, the mightiest army in the world cannot defeat an idea whose time has come. I think in 2023 that time has come, and that idea is justice, social, economic, political, gender, climate. Please understand that climate is critically important now in that panoply. So that time has come, and the idea is justice. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Sainath. So now you have three different perspectives covering different areas of what 2047 should look like, how we should get there, and how we may get there. I just like to add a couple of things. One is 2047 is not just about numbers, it's also about what kind of society we want to be in 2047. Do we want to be a society of harmony or of strife? Do we want to be a society of division or of diversity with harmony? And also in, I think Dr. Reddy would say, do we want to be in 2047 a poor nation with rich people, like what Sainath was talking about? Or do you want to be a rich nation with poor people? Or a rich nation with people who have a decent job, a house, education for their children, and something to look forward to? And look forward to, yes, I think we should foreground. You know, we talk a lot about what we are doing in solar power, commitments we are making internationally, etc. But we are not doing enough on the environment. And what we don't do in the environment is going to show itself in 2047 for the lives that our children and our grandchildren are going to experience. So I think with that thought, we will have to close because we are well beyond, we're now into our fourth day of the HLFs, so we must end here. So thank you all for coming for this session. Thank you all for being here the past 3 days. And we hope to see you next year.
Thank you very much, Rammanohar Reddy garu, Sainath garu, Reddy garu, Namaskaram, Shantha Sinha ma'am. Thank you so much. HLF 2023, but I just want to remind you that there is a finale, which is a stand-up comedy. But before that, of course, I'm inviting my colleague Amita Desai to do the final vote of thanks, a formal vote of thanks to end HLF 2023 before the finale. Thank you so much.
Good evening, friends. What a befitting finale to end with the Ajay Gandhi Memorial Valedictory. And as all good things, this festival too, must come to an end. We opened here a little over 2 days. Is this better? Okay. We opened a little over 2 days ago on this stage and then transformed the space, the beautiful Vidyaranya High School, into a festival fiesta. A literal fiesta which, while there were 200 odd artists and authors here, and 150 odd events that were organized here. Truly, what made this a festival was really the coming together of the city by just hordes of children and college students and families and people who flocked various events. This is one of the most heartwarming festivals that we have witnessed, with an amazing turnout, with outstanding resource people, both authors, artists, and other participants. It has been truly encouraging and, of course, hugely overwhelming. And I can speak on behalf of all my colleagues who have all felt that, wow, while we prepared, we did not know that the city would actually have this kind of a turnout. We are very, very excited, very enthused further, and very thankful and grateful to each person who came here. Thank you so much, Hyderabad, for making the Hyderabad Literary Festival, I would almost add here, to have arrived, literally, in ways more than one. Thank you all. Indeed, the resource people, the authors and the artists were here, engaged and engaging. And I thank specifically, since we had the language in focus, Konkan, and we had the Gnanpith awardee, Sri Damodar Mauzo, with us, and the entire Konkan contingent, which came from various parts of the Konkan region, from Goa and all the way down to the Karnataka border, the Karnataka coast. So thank you to all participants from the Konkan contingent. We also thank Germany and Dr. Grab here, who came here, ringing in the guest nation, again a cycle completed after 10 years of their first presentation here with Helene Bukowski, Christopher Klöble, and all the other contributors who brought Germany as a guest nation to this 13th edition of Hyderabad Literary Festival. Our convener, Mr. Jayesh Ranjan Garu, the Principal Secretary to the Government of Telangana, has been inspiring since he joined us as the committee convener in every aspect of this festival. I think to run this festival, to look higher, to call for people who would really make a difference, and of course, to lend immense amount of time and energy, and to rope in a whole lot of financial supporters. He has done this unstintingly at all times. Thank you, Jayesh Garu. We do have a few committees in place. The festival committee, and I would like to call them out by name because each one has been part of our journey over the year. And this journey, I must add, has been not very easy because we did not know what was really happening. Are we online? Are we offline? Will we have to go online again? How is it going to be? Can we invite? Can we prepare? Do we have a plan B? And it went on and on for a long time. And while we were making preparations and we were curating events, we were not really sure whether we would be able to have a physical in-person event. In fact, many of you know that 4 weeks ago, there was yet another scare of another variant which could be, round the corner, so to speak. But we are very happy that A, that didn't happen, and B, we were able to ultimately meet here in person. So I would like to call out our festival committee friends who have supported us. And in that, we have Dr. Rammanohar Reddy, who was here just now. We have Dr. Y.V. Reddy, who has guided us. Dr. Nandini Rao, G.V. Prasad, Bashir Babu Khan, Masiuddin Ahmed, We also have members of the core group and the venue coordinators. So Veena belongs to the festival committee. Anuradha Reddy, we have Atya Amzad, I'm reading them out alphabetically. Neeta Gandhi, we have Giridhar Rao, I missed that alphabetical one, sorry about that. Sadhana Ramchandar, Shriya Gupta, Sunita Reddy, Uma, Damodar, Sridhar, and again I missed Sarur in the S department, Sarur Ali Khan. These are all people who have helped us in the core group. We have had venue coordinators, Jeelam was with us, and the working group, which is really, dear friends, if I may add, burned the midnight and the early morning oil, sometimes continuously for several days. The tasks done by the festival coordinator, Siddiqa Fatima, Padma from our office, the Goethe Zentrum. I call them the Three Musketeers, Paridhi, Bihani Dugar, Ituri, Sandeep, Nikhil Nalla, who have really worked incessantly for over a month on this project, as well as rest of the team, and I'm not going to name them, but Goethe Zentrum Hyderabad really converts itself into the festival preparatory site for about 5 to 6 weeks. And it's a very buzzing and a very active and a very nervous and anxious place. But it is very joyous at all times. You can drop by at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock and people are still working hard with a mirchi bhaji in the hand and, coffee to go. So this has been something that we have enjoyed thoroughly. I forgot to mention our friends Ranjan and his son Rahul Chak, who have also played out and curated the Meet My Author and Meet My book. Thank you. I don't think this festival could have at all happened, since it is incredibly essential to get the kind of financial support that an event of this size requires. And we were very fortunate that people came forward, and we have with us the platinum sponsors, Dr. Reddy's and the Maruti Suzuki brand, which lent their help as platinum sponsors. We have the gold sponsors in the Indian Immunological Limited. They have come forward to us to support us over the last many years. Quantum Energy, the e-scooter, has supported us. Hariom, which are they call it the that's the GM, sorry. GM reads Switch to a Better World, and Hariom is the pipes and scaffolding and coils. We've had the silver sponsor Daifuku and supporting partners Bharti Cements and Kundana. Goethe Zentrum Hyderabad has been the principal partner over the years, and we are very fortunate to be able to be associated with an event of this kind over the very, very many years. If you will allow me, because I would like to, it is very important. We have numerous other supporters, and I'd like to read them out alphabetically. Art and Humanities Research Council, Aga Khan Trust for Culture, Asa Vines, Blue Pencil, British Council. Sorry, I can't read this here. The Adal Fest, Daira, Devas, English Pen, the Council General for the Federal Republic of Germany in Chennai, the Embassy of the Federal Republic of Germany in New Delhi, the Government of Telangana, Hamburg, the Ministry of Cultural Affairs, Metro Rail. I'm happy to know and I'm happy to announce that Metro Rail really has supported us, and with the frequency, with the last mile connectivity of Svida, we could not solve, but we could contain to a good part the load on our traffic outside in this region. The Indian Photography Festival has helped us in several ways, not only by bringing photography here, by taking photography at the Metro Rail, but also there is a Telangana bus, the TSRTC bus, which adorns from the inside an exhibition which is traveling the city and will continue to do so for another month. Lamakan, Manthan, Moving Images, NRB, Orient Black Swan, Saptaparni, Shankar Narayan's architect, Svida, as I mentioned, University of Hyderabad, Vibrant Ford, and Vidyaranya High School. Vidyaranya High School, as we know, is the venue, the festival venue, and they have opened literally every single door that we had asked to open. They have been the best partner that one could think of in terms of a venue, and far, far beyond. Their children participated as school volunteers. Shankar Narayan helped us to set up the infrastructure, and Vibrant Ford gave us the wheels. All of these people, all of these partners have been incredibly supportive, very open, and very, very forthcoming to make this particular festival what it has been. I would not like to end before saying that there are numerous volunteers who have come here only for the love of being associated with this space, and we cannot be thankful enough for these young people to have run around, bent backwards and forwards over the last 4.5 days, and they will continue to do so till midnight, because the promise is to give the school back as it was, so that it becomes from a festival venue to the school that it is tomorrow morning when children return here. I thank each and every one of our partners, sponsors, friends and well-wishers who have participated in this event to make it what it is. I would like you to now join us. And I say this, may I please add, on behalf of all my colleagues. Professor Vijay Kumar is here, and Professor Dr. Kinnara Murthy, who unfortunately is not here. She's pining for everything that's happening here and she cannot participate, but we relay to her in the US live updates of what is happening here. So I thank you all on behalf of my colleagues, and I invite you now for the finale of the day to a stand-up comedy, a very special one. Please do not leave without that, by Manal Patil and Ravi Gaikwad at the Quantum Arena for the final and the finale act of the Hyderabad Literary Festival 2023. The 13th edition comes to a close with a great hope, which P. Sainath just now talked about, that we will reassemble for the Hyderabad Literary Festival the next year around this time, and in as much health and happiness as we can, and with a lot of thought over the next 12 months. Thank you very much.